You're listening to The Practice of a Hoodoo Baptist, my personal journey of root work, faith, and ancestral wisdom. This is where I honor the ones who came before me, share what's been passed down, and walk you through my experiences of being unapologetically aligned, covered by spirit, guided by blood. Today, I'm going to talk about the lie, the one that's been passed down, packaged, and preached, that hoodoo is evil, that root work is demonic, that ancestral wisdom is witchcraft, and that the work of my ancestors, your ancestors, the work that our people did, and that a lot of us now continue, is something dark. It was something dark what they did, and now it's darkness that we now are walking into. I want to be very clear. It's not that. Hoodoo is not evil. It's not satanic. It's not devil worship. It's not some Hollywood horror movie either. It's black survival. Now, the purpose of me doing this podcast, or a huge intention of mine, is to eliminate the stigma that is on hoodoo. I was extremely inspired by Sinners. Sinners to me is a film that does not demonize ancestral, or more so African traditional religions. It does not demonize hoodoo. It does not demonize any of our practices, ancient practices, that are centered on, indigenous communities, African American communities. And it was so refreshing to see like a modern film that's still a period piece, but to actually see a film that just spoke to me in a way that no other film, no other horror film has ever done. Okay. Like, I don't know about you, but like my favorite films that I think tap into um, uh, our practices and Southern Gothic genres, films like Eve's Bayou. I love Eve's Bayou. I love The Daughters of the Dust. Like, those two films, just with their these strong female characters, I just love. So that was super inspiring. I'm super grateful for seeing Sinners. I had known about the production of Sinners for like a couple of years. I don't remember exactly how I got a little bit of tea of the theme of the movie. I do remember, of course, like there was press out about it being like a vampire flick. But somewhere, I don't know where, but somewhere down the line when they were in like pre-production is when I heard that it was going to be um, very much like inspired by or has some themes of Southern Goth, um, along with a little bit of influence of the blues and the South, and tap into talking about our traditions. Honey, Ryan Kluger was already attached to it. I knew that, so I knew I didn't have nothing to worry about. But I do remember like reading about that or hearing about that and just being so excited, and like watching the film, finally being able to watch the film. I've seen it twice. Um, and yeah, it was just, I kind of still had like a blank, like a blank idea in my head. Like, I just tried to just be as open as possible and just like just fully be immersed into it, and I was. And oh, it was just so beautiful to see so many parts of myself. I also saw like my mother in the movie. I saw my grandmothers in the movie. I like with some of the characters, especially the character Annie, really seeing this representation of, like my great grandmother, both of my great grandmothers. I'm blessed to say that I grew up with great grandparents. So I've met both of my great grandmothers. I've met great grandfathers, and grew up. I'm 36. I still have grandmothers in my life. So super blessed. And yeah, it was just really cool to see the representation of, God fearing people, God loving people, knowing people, folks who are gifted, and also folks who are rooted in their ancestry, rooted in their heritage, and one with nature. You know what I'm saying? Not separating this. So I may have mentioned this before, but like, um, I love saying the term, or what I label like as myself and also my ancestors, as Hoodoo Baptists, because to me, being born in this tradition, being born into this life, I just really didn't see any differences growing up. So to me, my folks were Hoodoo Baptists because my folks went to church. I grew up in the church. I was baptized at a young age. I was fully conscious about my baptism. Um, and yeah, like I, I, I had figures in my family who, huge prayers be praying down. You know what I'm saying? Love the Lord, in the church, wearing white on first Sunday, last Sunday, um, being there in, pillars of the community, being, great representatives in the church, having me in the church. And then, yeah, and being at home, seeing an altar in my grandmama's house, seeing photos of like, ancestors in the house, having an altar that had a Bible on it, had candles on it. Like, this is just regular, these are normal things to me growing up. And yeah, and also being very much educated at a young age about death. If I can try to remember, maybe I was 4 or 5 years old when I went to my first funeral. And yeah, and I remember it just like it was just nothing, just like it was yesterday. And yeah, and I really thank my folks for being so open with me, and because I still had a childhood. I played outside. I'm an only child. I still was able to, live my life as a kid. And I think because they taught me about this tradition and about the magic of manifestation, the power of prayer, the power of my thoughts, and connecting that to, having a clear understanding of like, you don't live forever in your body. There's an afterlife, being one with God, knowing the Lord, and knowing the Lord, loves you, and you're this representation, in his image. Like, I was just, baby, taught down, as a kid. So yeah, I named this podcast, um, Hoodoo Baptist. It was such a strong, kind of easy and strong feeling for me to name it that, because I feel like that represents a lot of our folks, where they was in the church, they were carrying these traditions in the church, they were masking a lot of our traditions through the church. A lot of the practices of the Black church today are practices that made it through, generations and generations, made it through past, from West Africa, East Africa. A lot of folks like me, where some family members on one side is Native American, indigenous. So like you Creek, you Choctaw, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many of us, especially in the South, like my Gullah Geechee folks, shout out to y'all. Folks that are really like carrying these traditions, and a lot of these practices and traditions are, flowing in and out of the church, and some of them just embedded in our culture, but we just don't call it hoodoo, or we didn't grow up calling it hoodoo. And I think a lot of I don't know if anybody's ever thought about this or just kind of said it more out loud, but maybe the fact that they didn't call it hoodoo was because that was still part of like the masking of it, to keep the tradition out of white people's mouths, to keep the tradition out of white people's hands, to keep the tradition ours. You know what I'm saying? Like, sit on that. Let that marinate. Because yeah, growing up, I didn't hear that. I didn't hear it being called hoodoo a lot, but I knew there was a term for it. But for real, it's the tradition, it's the recipes, and you know what I mean. It's there. It's ours. It's in our family. All right, so let me tap in. Excuse the noise. There's a little bit of noise in the feedback. Apologies for that. So, where did this demonization come from? And I think, when we're talking about like white Christianity, that push of Christian nationalism, this what we see today, like it ain't nothing new. Come on, y'all. Like, it's really nothing new. Like, white Christianity fears anything that empowers Black people or other cultures that are not white Christians. So anything out of the church system, to them, probably, it just needs to be controlled. And I think, we can like dig deeper, like calling it evil is used to separate us from our power, to shame us into disconnecting from our ancestors. And hoodoo was criminalized. I'm going to drop a couple of, I'm definitely going to recommend like some books. If folks want to read, I'll tap in the newsletter as well as the podcast. But yeah, like, if anyone who really wants to like understand hoodoo more and understand how the history of it, just our practices, just understand like our practices have been criminalized. People were jailed back in the day for practicing it, which again I think is a huge reason why our folks just never just didn't call it hoodoo, or just didn't call it anything, publicly. And because this has been demonized, for so long. And let me take a step back, because for real, like, the demonization of hoodoo is rooted in white supremacy. It's rooted in colonization and control, period. Our enslaved ancestors, enslaved Africans, and even also colonized Native American groups, in between, have seriously been brutalized and punished and ridiculed and criminalized for practicing their rights, like practicing what God gave us, our magic, our knowledge of plants, nature, how we move about among the land, our divination tools, the way that we communicate with our ancestors through our dreams, like all of that. Like, our people, speaking specifically about enslaved Africans, they brought all of that spiritual knowledge about the ancestors, knowledge about nature, plants, astrology, the land, divination tools, dreams, how we communicate. And they brought all of that and mixed it. Some of them, speaking about us that ended up here in America, in the States, especially in the South, they mixed it with Christianity because that's what was available for survival, essentially, and to keep our tradition alive. It was their way, I think, of assimilating a little bit, but it was for survival. And a lot of us are still in survival mode. A lot of us are kind of being pushed to continue to be disconnected from the culture. And my God, I think that's why it's so beautiful that a film like Sinners has been this catalyst of people changing their minds. It's been this catalyst of folks like reconnecting to it, thinking differently about it. Because how y'all some. I just thought about some shit. The way that folks would talk about hoodoo and ATRs, African traditional religions, African derived religions and practices, the way that folks talked about them before sinners, and then the film came out and just it was just this complete like shift. I was like, baby, that's what I'm talking about. That's some good juju. And by juju, I mean some positive energy, some good knowledge for your ass. Because something just had to happen to get people to just like wake up. You know what I'm saying? If I could say what hoodoo means to me, or what I can define, if I can define who I would say hoodoo is protection, hoodoo is healing. It's knowing when to move, when to stay still, when to pray, when to work. Okay? When to do the work. It's also spiritual medicine for us. You know, we weren't allowed to have anything else. And I feel like there's going to be people out there who, and there may be folks out there who feel like, well, we don't need to do this now. Like, we're free. Are you sure we don't need to do any of this now? You really thought about that? Oh, we don't need to, we can be at hospitals now. We don't need to practice any of this spiritual medicine. We don't need to know herbalism. Are you sure we're safe in these healthcare institutions? Are you sure the healthcare system is for us and not against us? Are you sure like these are 100% like better and safe for Black and brown indigenous people? You know, because let me tell you something. I'm a doula, certified full spectrum doula. It specializes in menstrual related conditions and disorders. Doulas, us doulas out here, we're saving lives. Shout out to all of the Black, brown, indigenous, Hispanic midwives, Black midwives. Shout out to y'all. Shout out to all of my indigenous, African, Black, Hispanic, just my girls of color who are doulas that are out there doing the work. Shout out to y'all, because y'all are saving lives. While these healthcare systems, while these hospitals are failing us, because the statistics, these numbers for mortality, maternal, these birth rates and these death rates, like it's still it's sad, um, and it's ridiculous, you know, and the numbers are crazy. I don't even want to really like dive into that, because I do plan on dedicating an entire episode to granny midwives and doulas, because those individuals back in the day when Black folks were not allowed in hospitals at all and were actually birthing children, those successful birth rates were extremely high numbers in our community, and there were doulas, granny midwives and doulas that were holding it down in entire towns and cities. I mean, they were delivering thousands of babies. You know, it'll be one or two people got two to 5,000 babies between them. You know, just amazing work. Amazing work. So shout out to y'all y'all are doing that ancestral work. I hope y'all know that. If you know a midwife, if you know a doula, buy her lunch, buy her some dinner, check on her. You know, that might be the strong friend, but the strong friends, they need to be checked on too. So please do that. Now, I'm honestly not trying to like tap in with this podcast. Like, again, it's about like having, you know, talking this out, and eventually, you know, I want to have conversations with different people within the community, within the space. You know, it's really just for your knowledge, and just for you to tap into having, you know, more of an understanding, because there's a lot of us who now feel more connected than we did before, or we always felt this strong pull and connection to the tradition and just didn't understand where, how, what. So this is the space. This is where it's going down. I'm not practicing to impress anybody. Me personally, I practice um, to continue to build a relationship and have a relationship with my family, with my folks. It is also how it has definitely strengthened my relationship with God. I have this beautiful relationship with God, and from being a kid and having this understanding of God to now being an adult, it's been such this beautiful journey, and I feel so empowered to continue to practice and do and talk about this tradition now more than ever. Um, and it's not to convert people, because that's not what we do. Child, that is the last thing we be doing. Not to convert people, not to impress anyone. It's also not for no aesthetic. It's not for entertainment or your goddamn approval. It ain't. It ain't. It's for me. It's because it's mine. It feels right. It's always felt right. It's never done me wrong. It's never done me dirty. I've never separated or felt I had to separate being a Baptist baby, being a hoodoo baby. Like, you know, I'm the Lord. He know, they know, she know, all them folks up there that's doing the work, um bringing all, you know, these beautiful things into my life. Like, they know how I feel. God knows how I feel. And it's just this, I just feel very aligned with it. You know what I'm saying? It's, for me, it's always been about like both the Bible and the bayou, both the Bible and the water. You know what I'm saying? Um, yeah, I just never felt the need to like separate any of these like things, because it's all one. Like, we are all one. We are all part of like one huge vessel. Um, and yeah, like the way when I, you know, look at herbalism and plants and animals, it's like these are all God's creations, and just like I am, you know, all of these manifestations, you know. I also like, sometimes it's even low key hard for me to give God a gender sometimes, or a sex. Yeah, because I'm like, I don't want to put no, I don't want to box my nigga in. He's just powerful. So I always say, I say creator a lot. God, creator, her, him, whatever, all the evers. Okay, everything. It's really cool. It's so cool. I keep thinking about like just the inspiration and just this push that's been going on right now. I think with a lot of people feeling like this energy and this push to connect with their ancestors, connect with their family traditions, you know, because the recipes, you know what I'm saying? Like some of us, including myself, we got like one of our grandmama's Bibles, okay, with they notes in it and shit. All kinds of notes. It's like, okay, they was going in, you know? So it's, yeah, like these just really cool things that just make up everything, as far as like make up who you are, you know? I know exactly who I am. And I know a huge reason for that is because I've seen where I've come from, and I've seen the people that have come before me and what they had to go through. And I got to experience great grands and them like pouring things into me that weren't necessarily like fear based, but more so like, hey, I didn't get a chance to do this. So if you want to do that, you just go do it, because you can do it. You know what I'm saying? Because you know, born in the 80s, different situation, obviously, from growing up in Jim Crow, like my folks. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, yeah, it's like, hey, you have more power now in your time than where I have. Like, you have your voice, use it, like, you're meant to be here. Very excited that you are here, just beautiful experience I had. I never needed to choose one over the other. Like, both live in me, and they make up like who I am in my experience. And talking about this lie, so yeah, like, let's get back to this lie though, because part of the practice is teaching. I want to be a voice, honestly, like, to remind Black folks, my community, that you don't have to be afraid of what your ancestors practice. Like, folks calling hoodoo demonic. I'm like, excuse me. So we're calling cooking collard greens, cornbread, and black eyed peas on New Year's Day demonic, for real? Like, are y'all gang banging over my black eyed peas? Nah, not even. We can't be banging over the black eyed peas. No, that's crazy. And it's crazy because we have literally inherited shame that does not belong to us. Okay? Like, the freedom sits at our altar waiting for us to return. Because our ancestors, our folks, they've been there. We just haven't been there. For real, for real. We haven't. So this calling that you might feel, that I feel, this pull, is real. It's this shift. That fucking that dirty ass, whack ass plantation didn't burn for no reason. It didn't just catch on fire. Tuh. Okay? It's more where that came from. Seriously. And we really need this fight right now. If you don't think Black folks need protection right now, you out your goddamn mind. You not for us. You against us. You can't be with it. You can't be with the culture thinking that we don't deserve and also need protection. Okay? Peace, be still. Get you a peace. Have your peace, whatever that means for you. Because this shame that we have surrounding our traditions, surrounding being Black, being brown, being indigenous, being mixed, being, beautiful, that shame, that does not belong to us. And that damn sure don't live in me. And I don't like it when it lives in the people I'm around, or when I see it, or whether it's online or in real life. Like, nah. The freedom literally sits on the altar waiting for us to return. The freedom is in your Bible. It's between your fingers, in your hands. It's in your mind. It is literally in your mind, your conscious. You can think it, you can manifest it, you can make it happen. You have the tongue. You have the tongue. You have the power. Have your prayers. Say your prayers. Have your practices. Have your rituals. Rituals ain't always about like sexy shit. It's not always about flowers and oils and Florida water. Yes, there are some that are like that, but you might have to tap into your basics. Like, look at how you just go about, what I'm saying, your life. Brushing your teeth is a ritual in the morning for those who get up in the morning and brush their teeth. Washing your face can be a ritual. How you treat yourself and your things is a reflection of how you feel about you. For real, for real. So, like, going into this practice or learning more about this practice is like tap into, some thoughts. Like, how do you feel about your family? How do you feel about your family history? How does your family treat you? How do you treat your family members? Is there any internalized racism you might want to deal with? Some anti-Blackness going on? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's, again, the practice, it's about doing the work. It's about teaching. And you can't be afraid of doing the work. You really can't. I'm always doing the motherfucking work. Always. It be hurting sometimes. It be stinging. It gets uncomfortable. But, however, it's beautiful on the other side of it. And the work don't stop. So, you know, you just getting started, and it's not too late. You here, you're listening to this podcast, you tapped into some books, I'm sure. You have watched more content that's centered around our experiences outside of enslavement. Like, you want more. You want more, which I love. I love how everybody was talking, like, was literally asking, like, for book recommendations, for movies, of more films to watch. I was like, yo, like, if y'all watch Sinners, tap into Daughters of the Dust if you haven't already. Watch Eve's Bayou if you haven't already. Amazing work. Tap back into Lovecraft Country, okay? If you if you down with the horror, if you want to get into a little bit more of music jams and different perspectives. One of my favorite movies that I like to watch with my mother, it's my mother's shit, it's called Lackawanna Blues. Lackawanna Blues is a beautiful film, and it's a crime against the African American community for them to not have it available on streaming. What's up with that? We need to protest, because Lackawanna Blues is the shit. Okay. Such a great film. Such a great film. You've been listening to The Practice of a Hoodoo Baptist. This is my altar, my process, my truth, where I honor those who came before me and speak what was once kept in silence, covered by spirit, guided by blood. Until next time, peace.